Dawn came in a bruised gray that spring of 1945, and the sea looked almost gentle. On the decks, men tied down hoses, checked lines, and pretended their hands weren't shaking. The word passed across the fleet like a wind you can't point to. Stand to. Stand ready. Radar pips first, then dots, then too many dots to count. You don't need a briefing to understand the day. You look up and the sky intends to kill you. They called it Okinawa, and the Navy called it a job. It was supposed to be routine in the way winter is routine, miserable, predictable, survivable. Build a ring around an island, feed an army ashore, crush the runways that feed the enemy back. But the enemy did something blunt and awful. He turned the sky into a weapon with a human fuse. Men who had names and photographs made their last decision and pointed their planes at ships that also had names and photographs. The first alarm doesn't sound like a bell. It sounds like everyone inhaling at once. Then the bells wake up, then the klaxons. Then a voice on the 1MC that has been steady all year gets a tremor you pretend not to hear. Gunners move by muscle memory. Loaders slap belts home. Directors spin and settle. Someone yells, "Bearing, mark!" And for a moment the whole fleet aligns into one animal with 1,000 blinking eyes. A kamikaze doesn't arrive like a dive bomber in a diagram. It arrives as an argument that refuses to end. The tracers walk toward it. The plane keeps coming. The tracers find it again. The plane keeps coming. You can feel the decision leave his body only when a wing shears, and the sky finally claims the rule of physics. When a pilot explodes short, the air turns into splinters and gasoline and prayers. When he doesn't, the ship learns what steel tastes like. On the carriers, flight decks become hospitals and factories inside a minute. Foam blankets the world. Hoses write white handwriting everywhere. Men drag other men by the elbows, the ankles, the collar, anything not on fire. You don't look for heroism here. You look for handles. You count heads. You count them again because counting is a way to stay human. The smell of avgas gets inside your teeth. Time stretches. Then someone says, "Ready on the catwalk." And the ship remembers it is a ship, not a bonfire. It doesn't happen once. It happens, stops, happens again, shifts directions, happens again. Out on the screen, destroyers trade their lives for seconds. They turn toward the attack like terriers biting a wolf's muzzle. When a plane flashes past low and the whole ocean lifts with his wake, you swear you saw his face. Some swore they heard voices in the slipstream. Most swore at their own ears and shot anyway. The fleet learns a cruel mathematics. If 10 come and 9 die, the 1 is enough. Between alarms, there's the work that never makes reels. Damage control parties vanish into smoke and return with miracles that look like patches, wedges, braces, and optimism. Fire watches chase embers into corners where steel remembers it was ore. The cook who served eggs at 4 a.m. is now carrying a man whose leg won't answer questions. A chaplain stands where the blast blew the paint off Jesus and invents a calm voice from nothing. The ship survives by the 1,000th decision no one ever planned to make. And still the island needs a ring of iron. Out past the horizon, the carriers keep flying. The cruisers keep scoring the coastline. The transports keep unspooling the rope of supplies that ties an army to a beach. There is no room in the schedule for despair. The schedule has planes to land, fuel to pump, bombs to arm, prayers to whisper, wounded to move, letters to begin and never finish. If a fleet can have a heartbeat, it sounds like a hangar deck full of hammers. You learn the weather by the color of smoke. Black for oil, brown for wood, white for hope. Rain slides in so heavy you could tilt your head and drink it. The water carries sparks along the deck like malicious fish. Night turns the Pacific into an unlit room full of furniture you can stub your soul on. You steer by instruments, by orders, by faith, by the way the deck feels when a wave has a different idea than you do. Every man finds a ritual. One ties the same knot the same way 3 times before every watch. One folds his cigarette pack exactly twice and never smokes the last one. One stashes a lucky washer under the splinter shield. The shield disappears. He finds the washer anyway. These are not superstitions. They are handles the mind can hold when the ship lurches. You make oaths with the sea you don't tell anyone about. You keep them because the sea does not. Some ships earn a nickname they didn't ask for. The ship that wouldn't die. She takes 1, takes 2, kneels, then stands on a knee you didn't know steel possessed. You can see courage the way you can see heat, not directly, but in the way everything around it wavers. Men on other decks look over and feel taller. Damage reports arrive with words that shouldn't be neighbors. Contained, cooling, operational, and the fleet breathes a little in the middle of breathing fire. The enemy paid too. In the end, the sky cannot be a weapon forever. Runways break. Fuel grows hard to find. Pilots grow younger than sanity. The storm does not stop because storms get tired. It stops because ships, planes, and an island full of men refuse to. The fleet that came to stay proves that staying is a tactic. Hold long enough, and even suicide runs out of plans. There's a moment no film ever gets right. The 2 minutes after an attack ends. Not victory, not relief. Something like a silence that has to relearn how to be silence. Someone coughs. Someone laughs at nothing. Someone asks for a wrench and means water. The petty officer who screams during alarms speaks like a library now. He hands you a rag and says very gently, "Make her pretty again." And you do, because a ship that looks cared for believes you mean it. Stand far enough back in history on a chart, and the battle looks like pins and arrows and dates. Stand where the spray hits your teeth, and it looks like 1,000 ordinary choices made under extraordinary weather. Did the fleet win? The fleet endured. Sometimes that is the same word wearing work clothes. The proof is an island that became a harbor, and then a runway, and then a road toward an ending everyone wanted and no one understood yet. So when they say kamikaze, don't only picture impact. Picture all the times impact failed because a loader's thumb didn't slip. Picture a hose team that found a stubborn tongue of fire and talked it down. Picture a signalman blinking calm into panic at 2 words a second. Picture a seaman apprentice who learned where courage hides and found out it hides in other people. The fleet didn't outscream the storm. It outlasted it. By the last sunsets, men could tell time by the ache in their shoulders. The ocean kept its secrets. The ships kept their promises. Planes still launched. Shells still fell on runways that thought they were safe. The sky had fewer arguments to make. And in the spaces between alarms, you could hear a different sound. Nails in planks, pens on paper, the ordinary music of a tomorrow that no one dared to say out loud. If you ask what it felt like, the veterans will give you weather forecasts. Hot, loud, wet, bright. If you ask what it meant, they will look somewhere past your shoulder and say something small like, "We were there." That's enough. Because being there, standing there, staying there while the sky tried everything, changed the shape of the war more surely than any headline. The fleet that came to stay stayed long enough for the storm to break on it and fail. And when the air finally cleared, the ships were still at their stations, black with work, ugly with patches, beautiful with refusal. You could walk a deck at dusk and count the dents like constellations. Men pointed them out to each other. That one from Tuesday. That one from the one that got too close. That one from the day we decided not to die. A ship is a story told in metal, and these stories were crowded, loud, and true. This is not a hymn to wreckage. It is a thank you to routine, the refuel that made the next launch possible, the watch bill that found 2 hours of sleep in a pocket of thunder, the cook who never ran out of coffee, the kid who learned the difference between fear and quitting. The sky tried to make the fleet leave. The fleet stayed until the sky had nothing left to say. If this story hit you, there are more at the waterline. Tap subscribe and the bell. Real World War II stories every day. Cold Front.